you want access to this podcast earlier than any other viewer, consider becoming a channel member. All tiers get access to this podcast earlier than people who are not channel members, and it does help out this channel a lot. So if you do want to get all of the news updates, discussions, and market information for Flesh and Blood before anybody else, please make sure to become a channel member today. This podcast is also sponsored by Fyendal's Collection. Fyendal's Collection is a collection database website dedicated to showing you the market analytics of all things Flesh and Blood. Looking to track an entire master set? Fyendal's Collection has you covered. It's as easy as creating a collection in their collection tab and choosing which set you'd like to see in all of its glory. There's even an option to only add one of each equipment and cold foil, which really excites my set collecting heart. As a free user, you can upload your collection here to have a great look into what you have accomplished so far in Flesh and Blood. But if you wanted to track your collection in the secondary market, becoming a subscriber really ramps up that analytics portion of Fyendal's Collection. For a measly $3 a month, you get to see the gain and loss each of your collections receive, so you can accurately determine the worth of your cardboard, as far as dollars are concerned. Subscribers also get access to the Market Trends and EV Tracking tabs, too. Market Trends is a great way for you to see what's hot in the Flesh and Blood market, and may even give you some insight into what you should pick up for your own collection. The EV Tracker tool is another great example of the data that Fyendal's Collection can provide. Tired of wondering if you're going to get hosed if you buy a booster box or even a case? Well, the EV Tracker is constantly updated to show what your estimated value is on each Flesh and Blood sealed product, which is a great thing for sealed collectors or even people who are just looking to get into the single selling business. Again, all of these tools and more are available to you for just $3 a month. But how about a free month's trial of the site before you settle in? By going to the subscription section and choosing a promo code, you can enter my affiliate code ASHTCG, all capitalized and all one word, and you will get a month of Fyendal's Collection subscription service for free. So if you've been looking for a new card collecting database for your master set collections, or even just some small little collections of your favorite pieces of Flesh and Blood, look no further than Fyendal's Collection. Don't forget to use the promo code ASHTCG when subscribing to receive a free month of service. Thank you so much to Fyendal's Collection for sponsoring this channel, and let's get back to the video. Welcome on in my Ashwings. It is such a pleasure to have you all here today. Guess what? It's time for episode 18 of the Common Language Podcast. Now, with the coming of this podcast, I initially was like, well, what do we talk about, right? We talk about the commonality we have between a lot of us in regards to new, it looked like it was snowing outside. It's not snow. It's just a dirty window or screen or something. Anyway, the common things we have between us, which is, our love for Flesh and Blood, and also adult responsibility and how things can change over time and how you can play Flesh and Blood at a very cheap level and still enjoy the game. That's kind of the overall concept I had for this podcast. And I'm happy that I still get to continue to find out new ways to do this every single day. And for today's episode, last week we talked about the common struggles where people are, they're not able to get the funds to play in most cases. And just go watch the episode. It's really, really good. At least I think it's really good. It touches on a lot of subjects that we as adults have to go through, and that it's a reality that this card game that we play is a luxury hobby, and that sometimes that's not affordable. So what I wanted to talk about today, though, is the folks that complain a little too much about the price of Flesh and Blood and don't proceed to do anything about it. So for those of you who don't know what a TCG is, and you're watching episode 18 of a TCG related podcast, thanks, but I'll go ahead and I'll just explain the concept here. So TCGs, or trading card games, are normally played at places like your kitchen table or at a coffee shop, but they can also more than likely be played, and this is where you're going to see most of them played actually, is a local game store, or an LGS, as I'll often call it throughout this episode. And the LGS is a place that sells cards and other, nerd things, such as, some sell comic books, some sell accessories for card games, some sell Funko Pops. Like, there's just a whole bunch of different things that are available. But a local game store is meant to quite literally just provide that space for players to come in, hang out, and enjoy their favorite game at a table, right? You don't have to worry about being at home. You can bring all your stuff to the store, and then you can just go ahead and play. Maybe even the shopkeeper will come in and play with you. Maybe you'll just have a bunch of people who walk by and want to join because they think the game looks cool. That's the purpose of the LGS there too. So why am I speaking about the LGS? Why am I talking about what the LGS is and why it's an available space for people to go and play the game? Well, the reason being is because I've seen a lot of complaints, and I often do whenever I create a market watch video of any kind, in regards to me telling my audience and anybody who happens to pop in to let them know that some cards have been rising in price, some cards have dropped in price, and these prices of these cards are something that you might want to pick up if you're looking to play any of the heroes. For instance, we just did one for the Hunted, the new set to come out in Flesh and Blood in just a couple of weeks here. And in that video, I had a lot of people saying it was great, awesome stuff. They were very excited to see the list and everything, but a lot of people just continued to say that the game is too expensive. These cards should never cost this amount of money. And it's just insane to think that Flesh and Blood keeps getting away with making no reprints of staple cards in their game. And while I agree that I do believe that staples should get reprints, right? Because if they're staples and they need to pretty much go in every deck, especially when it comes to like class specific ones, such as, Felling of the Crown, even though it just got reprinted in the last set, or just got printed, I should say, in the last set. Codex of Frailty getting a reprint. You'd have cards like, I don't know. And outside of that, it's just pretty much generics that are effectively holding a decent price from what I can see. But when it comes to those cards and their staples, right, then them getting a reprint makes sense because they're class specific and those things are there. But generics, I know that generics have always kind of been a problem because generics will go in every deck. And because they go in every deck, it doesn't matter if like 10,000 brute specialists come into the game or if 10,000 ninja specialists come into the game. You're probably going to see each one of those build up with Command and Conquers or E-Strikes or things like that. And I get that concept, but it is often met like that is the first part of the people's argument is that there's not enough reprints for staple cards, which I'm sure LSS is working on, right? I know it's only been 5 years. The game's only been out 5 years. So chill, like we'll get there. It will be fine. But more importantly, something else that they tie into their comment, which is probably the thing that really gets me the most, is that they cannot afford to play Flesh and Blood. Now, when I hear people say that in my comment section, I hear I cannot afford to play highly competitive Flesh and Blood, as to which I say that is unfortunate. And I do hope that with reprints in the future, that is an available avenue for you to go around. Or better yet, they just like phase out some of these cards that are considered staples and add in new thematic cards for a class or talent to allow you to play a little bit more optimally without having to worry about like, oh, well, like if I have this card, I need to play into this hero. And like if this blah, 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 if they get rid of, like if they phase out the generic stuff, and they only keep in like thematic stuff for, the talents and the heroes and stuff, then you're probably looking at a pretty good spot. But of course, that's the future. When people tell me that they cannot play the game because they cannot afford to play the game, I need it's something in my brain just fires. And immediately I am like heated at the concept, because the same people who often tell me that they can't afford to play Flesh and Blood are the same people who don't know that Commoner exists at all, let alone Clash, which is obviously an unofficial format. I could understand not knowing that Clash exists, because that's not anywhere on Flesh and Blood's website. It is only in a very vague, small little area on Fabrary. It, for lack of a better thing, does not have enough publicity to where people are talking about it all the time. But Commoner is a format that you see at every calling, every battle hardened, every pro tour, every world championship. They're all there. And starting a Commoner community is so easy, because you might say, okay, this game's a little too expensive for me. I don't want to initially invest a ton of money into the game in order for me to play it. To which I totally understand. As if you've seen our last episode of The Common Language, you know, life is hard. Adulting sucks. And so in some days we just can't afford to buy shiny cardboard. We have to just stick with what we've got. And in some cases, it's only like, if it's a brand new hobby for you, you don't want to drop $100, $200, $300, $400 into a hobby. Just drop $20 and see how it goes, right? So you take a look at something like Commoner. Commoner is essentially, for those of you who played Magic the Gathering, which I know a lot of people come over from the Magic the Gathering scene, that is Pauper, right? Commoner is the Pauper format, where you just have commons in your deck, and then you can have like rare or common equipment, but no Majestics, no Legendaries, none of those big money cards that you see in Classic Constructed. It's only these rarity cards in your deck. And let's be honest, if you are going to your locals and you are trying to play, and you keep telling other people or hearing from other people, yeah, the game's too expensive, I can't get into it, or you've even decided that the game's too expensive for you to get into, and you'd much rather just start out with something very basic in its understanding, that is where Commoner comes in. You are probably not the only person to think that Flesh and Blood is expensive. And because you're not the only person to think Flesh and Blood is expensive in your area, that means that you can probably grab 3 other people who also believe Flesh and Blood is too expensive right now to play, go to an LGS that's not doing anything on like a Thursday or a Friday or whatever day it is, right? And then just set up your own Commoner event in Gen. Just set it up. You can set it up with the shop too. If the shop does Flesh and Blood events, they can get one set up for you and have somebody be able to run it. It is so easy to do. If you have 4 people who want to play Flesh and Blood in your area, and your immediate response that is, okay, well, like, yeah, me and these 3 other people, we don't want to play it. We don't want to pay a lot of money for Flesh and Blood. And it's like, okay, then don't. Just play Commoner instead. And if their response is, oh, but I want to go for, this high power, cool money, and like, I'm seeing people win $10,000 and $5,000 and all these gold foils and all these events that are happening for it, I want to win that. When you're playing competitive, you need to spend that money to have your deck be the most optimal it could be. Are they necessary for you to play the game though? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I need either people in comment sections to make sure that that is very, very specific when they are saying that the game is too expensive to play competitively, You know, for one, sure, it might be initially expensive, but a lot of those cards that you're going to buy are going to be able to be swapped into another deck. So if your hero with your $1,000 deck gets Living Legend because they were too good at the format and ended up giving the Living Legend, right, and retiring out of the format, you can take those cards and you can put them into a different hero of the same class and or talent, and boom, you now don't have to spend like $800-900 on a new deck. You just need to buy some of the newer cards for that hero. So like maybe $100 if you didn't already have them. It's insane. Like you can just swap them over. It's so incredibly simple. So I think that's really what it comes down to is you can go and start a commoner event. You can go gather people in your local community who want to play Flesh and Blood, who've felt the need to play Flesh and Blood. And shoot, you don't even have to play commoner. You could quite literally just get 4 other people who have like budget versions of decks, and you're just like, yeah, you know, I only have like rares and commons in my classic constructed deck because I can't afford any of the majestics yet or anything of the sort. Just start a new like event where you can go and play with a bunch of people who only have rares and commons in their deck. Talk to your local Discord. I know there's multiple states in the US have Flesh and Blood Discords for you to join. You know, Texas has one, Illinois has one for mainly the Chicagoland area. You've got, Colorado has one. I know that like Ohio has one. People have them, right? There is a Flesh and Blood Discord in your state in most cases. So it's important to make sure that you have the ability to start this yourself, right? You have the ability to take the way you want to play Flesh and Blood into your own hands. It is something that is incredibly simple. You go on Gem, there's a play anywhere button when you log into Gem. You play anywhere, you choose the format you want to play. You and the folks that you've gathered to go to an LGS to play, sit down and play. You play your 3 rounds or 2 rounds, however you want to do it, and then boom, you're done. You've played Flesh and Blood. You've played Flesh and Blood at a level that you want to play at. This is something that I personally like doing, and it's something that I have done in this community here in Colorado. Is I've started a casual night where every Saturday night I host a event at an LGS where we play either Commoner or we play Clash. Our first night of Clash is going to be, it'll be this week. So I'm very excited to try that out and see how it works in person for people who are trying out the format. But next week we'll have Commoner, and it'll be another constant way for us to go, hey, we appreciate you wanting to come out and play for the sake of playing the game and not for some kind of crazy, prize thing that, you're not fighting for $10,000 at your armory. You know what I mean? It'd be different if there was hardcore cash on the line. And in most cases, it's not. In most cases, you get a couple of packs and you're done, right? You're done. You're good. So I would say it is incredibly valuable that you, as a person who doesn't want to invest a lot of money into Flesh and Blood because either you don't feel like it's a good thing for you to do right now because you have adult responsibilities, or you just view that the game is too expensive to play competitively, and so you still want to play, but you want to play competitively in a different way, right? In a way that maybe is a little bit more, affordable to you, then go play Commoner. Go play Clash. Go play UPF for all I care. Go play Blitz Pre-Constructed. These are formats that exist. Classic Constructed is not the only format in Flesh and Blood, and neither is Blitz. There are more formats in Flesh and Blood, and people enjoy them. Around the world, they enjoy these formats. But if your locals is not running it, if they're not setting up their armory to run it, if they're not willing to sacrifice one of those days a week for an armory to be a commoner armory instead, then it is what it is. Like, you know, whatever the store wants to do is whatever the store wants to do. But just know that you, the player, can set up events yourself. And if it's something that you want to see be built in your community, and it's something that you want to do while you wait for these reprints to come out, or maybe you want to wait until that next check comes through so you can actually go ahead and purchase maybe a copy of one of these cards, then do it. Nothing is stopping you. But please do not go into people's comment sections and just say, I can't afford to play Flesh and Blood. Say, I can't afford to play Flesh and Blood competitively. And I totally understand that. But don't tell me that you can't afford to play it. Because if you can't afford to play it, even at $10 a deck, you have significantly other things wrong with your financial situation, and you should certainly look into that before even trying to touch any TCG, let alone Flesh and Blood. Because you, like, $10 a deck, and also in most cases, for those of you who don't know, I also bring decks to these events, these casual events. So in some cases, you don't even need to pay a dime to play Flesh and Blood. Because I, a veteran who likes these budget formats, will just make decks out of the bulk I have and then let people borrow them. The concept is crazy, like, I know, but it's so easy. It's so easy to do. And I just want people to know that this is something that is going to change the way Flesh and Blood is played throughout the year. If more people who are upset about reprints not happening just bought into a format that was incredibly cheap so that they can save up and buy those cards, those generics that they want for their decks or other things, right? They don't have to worry about chasing a meta and buying, you know, $700 of a new hero every single time another hero LLs in Classic Constructed. So you can be like, okay, I guess I'm going to try this one now. That doesn't matter. That does not matter. You should wholeheartedly be able to just play the game you want to play, right? And I mean, we even talked about it in the previous episode, but like, there's still those armory decks that are out there, $40, and you can play a fully built armory deck. Is it as tuned as that armory deck could be? I mean, no. Obviously, if you took that hero and you added in all the incredibly good staples into that hero, you're probably looking at another $500, $600, $700. That's it. If that doesn't have to be your priority. You should not be feeling like you're forced to play cards in your deck simply because somebody else on the internet has that on their deck. Even if I make a video, if I make a Classic Constructed video showing off a deck that costs $1,000, you should not think that you need to spend $1,000 to play that hero. Okay? You should not. You should not think that at all. You should start small, get to learn what the hero is like, and then build up from there. And if it's a hero that you really enjoy and you're willing to stick with it, then you can buy the staples. But for the time being, you can just build up a community of casual players who don't want to drop hundreds of dollars into a format every single, 2 months, simply because they know that some tech piece is working really well, some tech piece is not working really well. I want people to know that this is a format that is, like, Commoner is a format that just wants you to have fun. But it is also hyper competitive. Like, you still can get competitive. If you want your community to be competitive about Commoner, do it, right? Start putting prizes on the line. Instead of you having to pay for all these additional cards for, for your Classic Constructed deck, take your $10 deck that you know you're going to love, and that's maybe meta relevant, right? $10 to $20. And then you can go ahead and take the rest of the money that you would have spent into Flesh and Blood and instead buy prizes for stuff, or, assist the store with providing prizes by doing, buying into the event and getting prizes there. That way you're just spending $20 and then maybe $5 for entry, and you just get to play Flesh and Blood. That's it. That's what you want. That's what you want to do. It's about getting in and playing. It's not about being like competitively, right? If you're playing Classic Constructed, it's about being the best. But if you're just trying to play the game and enjoy it and like try out some new heroes or maybe see what this other format's about, because I don't know if people are even aware, but playing Commoner is incredibly effective, just the same as playing into a Pro Tour or playing into a World Championship or a Calling or a Battle Hardened. Because guess what? At each of those events, there is a event that happens, usually on the Saturday of that weekend, where you can enter into a Commoner event and win a gold foil card. A gold foil. Gold foils cost like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So obviously there's an opportunity for you to learn in Commoner and then take that knowledge and use it in the next time you're at an organized play event. You're going to be able to utilize that knowledge, know what the meta is like, and go, okay, cool. I'm going to take this into here and I'm going to try and win. There's still that competitive aspect to Commoner. It's not just people flailing around and being like, oh, I'm poor and so I don't have the ability to play cards. Like, no, like there's still a competitive aspect to that. Whether or not you want your community to be that competitive aspect is one thing, but in this situation, it's just so much easier to just be like, hey, I want to play Flesh and Blood, but I don't want to spend $150 on 3 cards, or I don't want to spend $300 on 3 cards, and then another $150 on another 1 card. Then that's fine, right? I'm not going to tell you how you should play the game. I'm not going to tell you that you're, oh, boo-hoo, like, feels bad. Maybe you should just like get good or like whatever. No. Like if you can't afford it because you have adult responsibilities, or like maybe you're not quite like sure you're going to love the game, then don't play Classic Constructed at a high power level just yet. Just play Commoner. You can play Clash, and you can even just play budget versions of Classic Constructed decks that just don't have the, 8 to 10 cards that make your deck go from $10 to $1,000. Because it really is just in like somewhere between like 10 to 12 cards inside most of these very powerful decks that are the reason why the deck is so expensive. It's not even most of the deck. The deck consists of 80 cards. If 12 of those cards are the expensive cards, that means 68 of those cards are bulk rares and commons that you put into your deck. And sometimes they're even bulk majestics. Cards that are under like $2. So I don't know. I always end up talking about this, and I always get so passionate about it because I know that people are trying to push other people away from playing the game, and they're also trying to give a false light into Flesh and Blood and how it's played. And I need people to know that the more that we complain about price to LSS, right? Obviously reprints will happen in the future if that's like a big complaint of the company, or of the community, I should say. But when you are telling other people who might be interested into the game that they are going to have to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to play the game at all, then you failed them. You have failed them. And if that's something they can afford, awesome. But if it's something they can't afford, and to be honest, most people can't afford it these days, then they're not going to play. And now you've just lost another person who was interested in the game, who wanted to learn, and now just thinks that the only way for you to play Flesh and Blood is to go out and spend $1,000. Where instead you can go, oh yeah, Jimmy's running in a little like get together event for casual players every Saturday night at this event, and you're at this LGS. You should go there and see what it's like. They often bring decks for people to play and all this other stuff, and that will be enough to be like, oh, this is a welcoming community. I would like to go check that out for literally $0, and then be taught how to play the game, and then also be able to vibe with the community and find new friends and just new experiences and enjoying your time in the flesh and blood, because that's what it's about, right? You shouldn't be steering people away because of the price of one format. You should be accepting people into the game, letting them know that there are other formats that exist. And if you believe that that's something that your community needs, and you're a veteran player who has the time to do that, you should be the one to start that, because it is incredibly important that there is a space for casual players who are just getting into the game, or maybe they're just trying to play the game for a cheap amount because they don't want to fully invest into it yet. There needs to be a place for that. And so I'm happy I'm doing that for my community. I certainly hope that you guys can get something set up like that for your own, because I don't know. I don't have any other like very special words for it. It's just a very, very rewarding thing, knowing that these players, who are, some of them are even like hyper competitive players, will come in, play Commoner, and just know that they really enjoyed the game. They really enjoyed just sitting down and playing casually and not needing to worry about some hyper aggressive, like, oh God, like, yeah, this matchup again, I can't do this, like, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I'm never going to win anything here. Nothing is ever going to be good. I'm never going to be a good player. And just like in the feels bad. It's just, here's a 52 card deck. Here's what the hero does. Let me teach you how to play the game if you don't know already. Otherwise, let's jam. And that's it, right? It's all about having fun. You just learn how to have fun. Learn to make, you can still make it competitive, but it'll be significantly more fun when that competition is like $20. And you can go, okay, cool. I might win some prize packs, right? I might win some store credit. But for $20, for you to play at the highest power you can play in the deck is incredibly good. So thank you all for coming to my TED Talk. I feel like I talked significantly longer about this than I wanted to. But I just, hopefully you guys can tell how incredibly passionate I am about this, and how I do genuinely think that the world needs more casual stuff. There's certainly a lot of light on the competitive side of things, but casual play is so important. And in some cases, even things like Commoner, again, like they're not always casual. If you go to a Commoner event in Battle Hardened or a Calling, and they have a cold foil event happening there or a gold foil event happening there for Commoner, that is a like competition, right? That is a big competition, and there's a lot on the line for if you win. So if you want to make it competitive, you can. But in most cases, it's just people who want to play Flesh and Blood on a night that works out for them, and you're able to get people together, create a community of casual players, and then continue playing this wonderful game of Flesh and Blood. So thank you all so much for watching. I do really appreciate your support. Make sure to go ahead and hit the like button down below. You can also subscribe to the channel if you have not already. You'll see that we are climbing pretty quickly here, over to 2,500 subscribers. So I'm very excited. Only 140 more of you wonderful Ashwings to join the brood until we get to the wonderful 2,500, and then we'll figure something out from there. But anywho, thank you so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed today's episode, if it resonates with you at all, if there's something that you wish that you could do for your community, but you can't seem to figure it out and you'd like some assistance or some tips, like, let me know, right? I did it. I quite literally, it's only been 3 weeks going, but like I did it. I've gotten enough people in my community to be super excited about a casual format. One of them being an unofficial casual format, mind you, and just wanting to vibe and hang out on a Saturday night. And that is an achievement enough for me. But let me know how I can help you. Let me know how the community can help you, because that's what we want. We want to help each other. We want people to be there for one another, to create a space that is going to be accepting for them, in whether it be financially or emotionally or physically or whatever it might be. Create the space that you want for the community. Don't just go complain online and tell people that it's too expensive and then never do anything about it. Do something. Make something happen. You have the ability to make change, and you always will. So do it. That's just it. Insert Shia LaBeouf, just do it meme. But anywho, thank you again. And yeah, this has been episode 18 of the Common Language Podcast. I look forward to many more in 2025. So I hope you continue to have fun in the flesh and blood, and I will see you all in the next episode of the Common Language Podcast.